antivirus, and it's probably not impacting your traffic unless it's operating on abnormal ports. And if it's the Windows firewall or a lot of firewalls, you're starting to do something on ports that aren't normally accessed, it'll ask you, and it'll be like, hey, there's activity on port 692. Is that cool? You want to do that? No. And if you're doing something, and a lot of times it'll tell you what process is doing it. So like if you're on Skype, which in some instances operates on port 443, which aggravates me, because when you have a web server on your computer and you're testing out stuff, or not port 443, port 8, because it'll conflict with your web server on your computer and Skype at the same time running. They'll fight with each other, and Skype always wins. So even the basic Windows firewall is good. You should have it turned on, and you should listen to the computer when it tells you that things are trying to do things with the firewall. Because I know a lot of people who just see that the UAC prompt, the user account control, and it's like, hey, such and such is trying to do administrative stuff, and you're like, hey, whatever. Like, you don't want to get in this way. You should probably read those, and if you're not doing anything in particular at the time, just probably say no. So another really important thing. When you're on the internet and you're on a website that is normally secured and it has HTTPS, every time you go to that site, you should look for the HTTPS. If it's just HTTP and the same website you always go to, that's a problem. More than likely, someone's done man in the middle and they're stripping out the SSL, and it's not going to throw any flags at you saying, hey, SSL is invalid or anything like that. It's just going to let you log in and they're going to capture your password, and then you're going to have to go through all the stuff that comes out.
The lock.
Or the lock. Not everything has a lock, because I've seen,
That's for banking. Just wanted to make sure you said that.
Well, yeah, the lock, the little blue thing with the Gmail symbol, but you can actually do a lot of browser scripting to where you can actually make those things pop up anyway. Mm-hmm. But you can't. You can. But most people, when they're doing this, are, one, not going to do that. And two, if they do that, they're not going to make that thing clickable where it will bring up information. If the site does not begin with HTTPS, but that's what that is at the end, no matter what website it is, it means anything you do on that website can be seen. I can sit in this room, and if you log into any website, I can see your plain text username and password. I can see everything that you do. I can see everything that you write, no matter what it is. I can see it. I can do whatever I want. Well, I can't modify it unless I'm in the middle. But without even being in the middle, I can just see it. And that's a spooky thing, because there's a lot of websites that people log into, like forums, where they don't have HTTPS, protocol on logging in, and if I capture your forum password, I'm going to go on there and say all kinds of terrible things under your name, and they're going to kick you out. That's just how it is. I mean, you want to be careful when you're logging into things, is the basic premise of this. Look for the S. If the S isn't there, just know that it is entirely possible that someone could take your stuff. Like I said before, man in the middle is tricky, and it's difficult to detect without using tools. Really, you can't detect it with using tools that I'm aware of. And I actually did some looking on that because I didn't know, to be honest with you. But I know now. You can't, unless you got a tool.
What tool?
There's a bunch of tools on it.
Oh, okay.
Go to Wikipedia. Now, the big, bold, highlighted one is like the biggest one that I deal with people. And it's, do not open attachments from emails where you do not know the sender. Or, as I said before, you know the sender, but it's a weird, erratic email written in Russian, and, it's got some attachment with the name of the file written in Russian. Don't open that unless they're Russian and you speak Russian and you can read Russian. Because, that could be a problem. And again, do not use email links to go to websites. Use the web browser to manually enter the address of the site. For anything that's important, you shouldn't even use Google to get to it. Because, as I learned once before, phishing sites can rank pretty highly on Google. People mess with search engine optimization and stuff, and that phishing site will be right up at the top. It'll be above Facebook. When you Google Facebook, it'll be like, Facebook phishing site? Hey, Facebook. You got to really, really pay attention to what you're clicking on. And you got to read website addresses. Because anyone can make the big blue title whatever they want. But the web address is something that's a little more difficult to fake. And it's important to watch that. And of course, even perfectly valid and legitimate sites can be compromised and have malicious code injected, and then anything you put in is compromised anyway. But there's really no way to defend against that as far as a user. That's something on the, web server guys and net security guys sites. Man, I have done so much work for people who have gotten viruses from one of these things right here. Okay, there's LimeWire, which is the most popular by far, which is also FrostWire, because yeah, they got sued and they lost. BearShare, Kazaa, other programs like it, and there's tons and tons and tons of them. And then BitTorrent sites. And BitTorrent has a lot of legitimate uses, and I really like BitTorrent. It's a good way to download Linux distributions and stuff like that. But a lot of people use it for illegal things. And those people who do use it for illegal things that I have dealt with do not know how to check for viruses. And they will get viruses. And that's just how it's an incentive not to pirate things, because you will probably get a virus. And that's just how it is. And then, if you're going to use one of these, have good antivirus software. And I would even follow up upon that and say, actively scan everything you download. Once it's out of, whatever zip folder it comes in, because, like I said, some antiviruses just don't scan compressed files. And you'll scan something and be like, no, it's good, because it's zipped up and it doesn't know what's in it. And it won't tell you, oh, well, I can't scan that, it's compressed. Or at least the ones I've used. They're very non-informative.
So what antivirus would be a good antivirus in your terminology?
In my terminology.
Do you have a preferred favorite, or is there just one that stands above the rest?
There are two that I like. One's open source. It's ClamAV. It's for every operating system you can think of. And it's got the heuristic scanner, it's got the active scanner, it's got the on-demand scanner, all that stuff. And it's free, so it's not as great. It has actually, there's different versions of it that are built for, if you're like a web server administrator, there's like modules that you can put in for checking the email server, everything that comes in and out, and stuff like that. I like ClamAV, which is free, and then I like Avast. The paid-for version will scan compressed files, and that's really the only difference I can tell between the free one and the not free one. Yeah, but it's really good, but the free one does not scan compressed files. Norton is a really good antivirus. Some people I've dealt with, once they install Norton on their computer, their CD drive doesn't work anymore. Something goes weird, and I have to look it up on the Symantec help site and research it and fix it. Then I know for next time. But I stick with ClamAV and Avast, and I've had a lot of good luck with that. Okay, now have a good password for all of your accounts. And another part of what I was reading is a lot of people, it says in the same survey, 34% of people revealed that their password was simply a pet's name or a child's name. It doesn't specify casing, but it's like Rex, or, whatever. It's a bad password. That's going to be in most every dictionary out there when someone goes to brute force your password, so don't do that. Make it complex, put uppercase and lowercase letters in there. Above all else, make it something that's not going to appear in a dictionary, no matter the casing. Because every dictionary in the world that you can use to break passwords includes every word in the dictionary. Well, like certain versions of the dictionary, because there's different ones. But essentially, don't do that. Don't have dictionary words in your password, even as a part of your password. It makes it very weak. Uppercase and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols that are allowed within the password, you should use all of those, the combination of them. If you make it more than 14 characters long, it's very unlikely that anyone will brute force your password, unless they just have ridiculous setup. And like, if the government's coming after you to figure out your password, they'll find it. But as far as Joe Hacker over there, he's not going to more than likely be able to get that. Oh, this is a big one. I've done a lot of work for businesses, and they'll have all their transactions, they'll have terminals, points of sale, and everything's going over wireless to the router, and it's completely unencrypted. And there might be some kind of software-based encrypting, but I can look up the software, I can download it, and then I can read this information. I can see all the credit card numbers, stuff like that. It's just flying around in the air, it's flinging around with no regard whatsoever. You should secure any wireless network that you have, because making it unsecured means I could, or someone could pull up and become the man in the middle in your network in a matter of seconds and see everything that you're doing. He can see your, it feels like he can get the screen of every computer in the house. He can control the computer. There's a lot of stuff that goes into not having a secure network that